As we discussed earlier, SAP follows three-tier architecture. So we will be having three layers: presentation layer, application layer, and the database layer. At presentation layer, what we install? We install SAP GUI or login pad. From there, we connect to SAP system. And when it comes to database layer, you will be having database repository and business data. Unlike other softwares, SAP saves its software also in database layer only. So SAP entire your SAP repository, programs, reports, screens, menu options, even printer fax configuration settings, everything will be saving in your database repository. Only few of the application components resides outside of the database at application server level, calling them as kernel. So what we are having at application level, .exes and .dll. We discussed what is .exe, what is .dll. How this application server, the entire mechanism is working where? At application server. The data residing in the database layer, your business data and SAP data. But when you log in into the system from your presentation layer, you will connect to application layer. From application layer, it will connect to the database, it will fetch the data and it will give it to you. Now, what mechanism is working here at application layer? This is what your SAP's architecture. This application layer, how SAP application layer works, that is called as SAP architecture. When you install SAP system, by default, you will get two instances. Instance means you can say application server. So one is ASCS application server, second one is PAS, primary application server. Remember these names: ASCS, PAS. AS means application server. Central services. What is the meaning of central services? Means for entire SAP system, we are having two services in this: message server and enqueue. These two are common. As the beauty of three-tier architecture is, you can install multiple application servers. So you can increase the strength of this application layer by adding extra application servers. If the users are increasing, you can add extra additional application servers, right? So this is ASCS. The first application server is called as PAS, primary application server. If this is not able to handle users request, then we can install another application server. What is that called as? AAS, additional application server. If this is not sufficient, then we can install another application server, that is also AAS. So first one is ASCS, second one is PAS. After that, whatever the applications you installed, that are called as AAS, additional application servers. Means what we are doing here means, we are not doing anything to the database, we are not doing anything here. We are just simply adding the strength of your which layer? Application layer, by adding extra hardware resources, by adding extra services. How we add that, we'll see later. So primarily, when you install your SAP system, you will get ASCS and PAS. ASCS contains message server and enqueue. These two are common for your entire SAP system. So you will be having only one message server, one enqueue server. That is the reason SAP put these two into as a central services. When it comes to PAS, we will be having some work processes, and a dispatcher is there, and we will be having gateway also. We will be having gateway, dispatcher, gateway, and we are having some work processes. Dialog work process, background work process, V means update work process, S means spool work process, E means enqueue work process. So enqueue, you can say service as work process, whatever it may be. So it will be residing in your SAP system. So when an end user requested for a login, what happens first? First the request comes to from presentation layer to application layer, message server. So this message server pass this request to dispatcher. This dispatcher will have some sense. The name itself suggesting it is a dispatcher, dispatching the work to appropriate work process. We are having different work process. Each and every work process has its own task. For different tasks, different work process. How it works? So the dispatcher will give that work to dialog work process. Means if a end user request for a login screen, the request will first comes to message server. From message server to dispatcher, the dispatcher will dispatch that work to dialog work process. If a end user requested for a long running job, the request will come to message server to dispatcher will dispatch that work to background work process. So for login, dialog work process. For long running job, background work process. Why background work process means this? Why it is not giving to dialog means dialog work process for logins and some online jobs. Means this dialog work process is having some runtime limit. Why we are using this dialog work process means first thing, the major thing is for login purpose. Then for and online jobs. What is the meaning of online job? Directly you are executing something. Then dialog work process will comes into picture. It will execute that. So there is a runtime limit. There is a parameter called rdisp slash max underscore wp run underscore time. This is a parameter is there. This parameter will restrict dialog work process runtime limit. By default, its value is 600 seconds. So if you give some job to SAP system, the dialog work process will take care of the job. If that reaches beyond 600 seconds, the limit of dialog work process is only 600 seconds. If it is reaching more than 600 seconds, then your job will be terminated. That is the reason what we do. If you are executing one program, let's take example of payroll. Obviously, it will take more time. It has to fetch all employees' data, right? So that type of jobs we schedule as a background, so that there is a special type of work process which can execute for a longer period. That is a background work process. We schedule that type of jobs as a background jobs. For background work process, there is no time limit. There is no time limit. Unlike your dialog work process, background work process has no time limit. For dialog work process, there is a time limit. For background work process, no time limit. You can say offline jobs. User need not to sit in front of the system when you are doing background jobs. You can schedule as a background job. So the system will execute that programs according to the timetable, whatever you assign that. So that is what background work process means. For small programs, if you want to run execute within 600 seconds, then you give that work to dialog. If it is taking beyond 600 seconds, you schedule as a background, so that background work process will take care of that work, right? And when it comes to dialog work process, we should have at least two dialog work process per instance. Two dialog work process, at least minimum there should be two dialog work process. Why two? So when you log in into the system, first which work process is responsible for login? Dialog work process. And another dialog work process for assigning work to other work process. Actually, first request comes to dispatcher to dialog, then dialog will assign the work to background, update, spool, and MQ. This is how actual work happens. Message server to dispatcher to dialog, then dialog work process will assign the work to appropriate work process. That is the reason one work process for logins, second work process for assigning the work to other work process. So at least per instance, per application server, you should have two dialog work process. Dialog work process for logins, and it is for online jobs. Dialog work process has a runtime limit. There is a parameter rdisp max underscore wp run underscore time. The value is 600 seconds. If it is reaching beyond that, your job will be terminated. That is the reason for long running jobs, you need to assign it to background work process. There is a special type of work process to do this long running jobs. And we should have at least two dialog work process. And the third one is update work process. We define with V. Dialog means D, background means B, update work process means V. Not you, remember, V. Update work process. When you say insert, change, modify, edit, whatever the things, these kind of things, update work process is responsible. What? Insert, okay, update, change, modify, all these kind of things. So only remember, only update work process has read and write authorization. Read and write authorization. All other work process only has read authorization. Dialog work process can only read. Background, updates, dialog, background, spool and enqueue only read authorization. Only update work process has read and write authorization. What is the meaning of write authorization? If you want to do any change in the database, only update work process can do that change. No other work process can change any data in your database. So remember that. So if you're saying insert, update, change, modify, and create, all these are doing some changes in the database, right? So who will comes into picture? Update. Remember, whenever update work process comes into picture, there is another work process, enqueue work process. It will comes into picture. How this enqueue works? Enqueue prevents what? Deadlocks. Enqueue prevents deadlocks. Enqueue is for locking mechanism. Locking mechanism. What is the meaning of locking mechanism? Means, for example, if this update for process updating some table in your database, enqueue will lock that particular table for you. Why it is locking for you? If I am changing something, at the same time you are also trying to change that. Whom should it get change? For you or me? So what it will do, it will work as a first in first out manner. So I logged into the first, I selected that table into edit mode first. So it will give me read and write authorization. It will allow me to change. For you, it will only give read option. You cannot change that. You can only see that. You can only read that. That is what enqueue will do. Not only for table, if you are changing single row, single column or single object, even though enqueue will log that particular object for you. Your online shopping, entire thing is based on your enqueue work process only. If there is no enqueue, how you can book movie tickets? For example, if you are booking some incliner seats which are in the corner, so you selected first. When you select first, the seats are available. When you choose that seats, what happens? The color will be changed. So you are entering some HDFC bank details. At the same time, some other person logged into the system. If the seats are available for him, then he'll also choose that. He'll entering some ICICI bank details. Whom should it get confirmed? So what this enqueue will do, when you select that tickets, seats, that enqueue work process will log that particular seats for you till your transaction gets successful. If your transaction gets successful, the tickets will be booked for you. If you enter some wrong OTP, wrong password, then enqueue will unlock that again. Then at the time, if you try that, that seats will be again available, right? If somebody tries at the same time, then for him it will be available. He can choose. That is how your online shopping is working. Without enqueue work process, your IRCTC, Redbus, okay, movie tickets, even Amazon and Flipkart, nothing will be happen. So this is what enqueue. And remember, only one enqueue work process. Only one enqueue work process is enough. Enqueue work process is enough for whole SAP system. When I am saying whole SAP system, even though you are having 100 application servers, 5 application servers, all application servers contains only one enqueue work process. See, that is the reason enqueue is represented in your ASCS, application server central services. Only one message server for entire system, only one enqueue for your entire system. For this application server, is there any enqueue? No. For additional application server, no enqueue. Another additional applications are no enqueue. Only enqueue presents in ASCS. That one enqueue work process enough for your whole SAP system. It will lock and unlock thousands of locks and thousands of unlocks within fraction of seconds. That is the reason only one enqueue work process enough. So dialog is for logins and online jobs. Background work process for long running jobs. Update is for to do any changes in your database. Update work process is mandatory. And whenever update comes into picture, enqueue work process will comes into picture. Enqueue prevents deadlock situations. It is for locking mechanism, and only one enqueue work process is enough for your whole SAP system. The second one, another one, spool work process. Spool work process for printing purpose. Spool work process for printing purpose. If a end user gives a print, then the request will comes to message server to dispatcher, dispatcher to dialog. That then dialog work process will assign the work to spool work process. So printing is responsibility of which work process? Spool work process. And what is message server here? And we are having message server and gateway also. Message server is representing in where ASCs, application server central services. See, this message server, only one message server is enough for your whole SAP system. What is the use of this message server means? Message server is responsible for communication between application to application, application to database. When you log in into the message server, first presentation to application, the request is coming to message server. If this message server is down, can your request goes to this dispatcher? No, even you won't get a login. When you are not able to log in, can you connect to the database? So this message server is responsible for communication between application to this application to application, the application to database, and it runs on a dedicated port number 36 $, 36 $, where $, is your instance number. Every instance will have number. For example, this instance number is 00, this instance number is 01. So this message server port number will be 3600. If this instance number is 01, then 3601. So message server only resides in your ASCS instance. It is responsible for communication between application to application, application to database. For example, if you are having another application server, then also your user request will go to message server to this dispatcher. These applications are also will have, see, I'll show you. For example, if I am having another application server, so what it is called as? It is called as AAS, additional application server. What will be having here? Dispatcher, okay, and we'll be having dialog work process, background work process, update work process, and spool. Do we have NQ? No, only one NQ. Do we have message server here? No, only one message server. And we'll be having gateway service. So if this application server, if I am having some other users who are logging from this, from here, this instance number is 0001 and I am giving 02 to this. So the request, now this user wants to log in. How it happens? Means the request first goes to message server only. Message server, from this message server, the request will go to this dispatcher. So what message server is doing here? If all these work processes are busy, then the message server is routing the request to this dispatcher. So it is balancing the load also. So message server also works as a load balancer. And when you log in into the system, first who is taking your request? Message server. It will check the license also, whether you are user expired or not. Message server only resides in central ASCS, which is responsible for communication between application to application. How this application and this application is connecting? Through message server only. And after connecting application to database, through message server only. So message server is responsible for communication between application to application, application to database, and it runs on a dedicated port number called 36 $, where $, is your instance number. And message server also works as a load balancer. If this dispatcher is having busy work process, then the request will go to this dispatcher. If these dialogues are busy, these backgrounds are busy, then the request to message server will check and send the user request to this dispatcher, which is having free work processes. From this work process, you connect to this database again. Same one database only. So you will be having number of application servers. Whatever the application servers you are having, all these workflows are connecting to the same database. Message server working as a load balancer as well as for license checking also. Another thing is gateway. What is this gateway? You can observe this gateway is in every instance. PAs there is a gateway, additional application there is gateway. Even though if you install another application server, there also you will get gateway service. This gateway is responsible for communication between, it is especially for communication purpose. Communication between SAP to SAP, SAP to non-SAP, SAP to SAP, SAP to non-SAP system. For example, what is the difference between message server and gateway? Gateway is just like a pillar for your building. For your apartment, some pillars is there, right? Message server is just like a pillar for your building. If message server is down means, if your pillars are collapsed means your building is collapsed. Gateway is just like your lock for your opposite flat. If there is a lock for opposite flat, you cannot communicate with them, right? If the lock is open, you can be able to communicate. The same way, gateway is just like for a lock for your opposite flat. Message server is just like a pillar for your building. If your pillar collapsed, entire building collapsed. Means if your message server is down, entire system is down. You cannot communicate within the, you cannot log in into the system. If gateway is down, you can log in into the system. You logged in, then gateway down. You can still you can work in your system, but you cannot able to communicate with other SAP system. Gateway is responsible for communication between SAP to SAP system. For example, this is my development system. You cannot connect with your quality system or production system or some non-SAP system. Java system is there. You cannot connect with that non-SAP system. The communication between SAP to SAP, SAP to non-SAP can happen through gateway. And gateway runs on a dedicated port number 33 $33 where $$ is your instance number. What is my instance number here? 33. My instance number is 01. Here 33. My instance number is 02. This is what your gateway. See, I'll show you example. Okay, I'm having one SAP system here. How many SAP systems I'm having here? 2. Even though I am having 100 application servers, one database, all these application servers will connect to this database. This is my development system, for example. This is my quality system. So how many SAP systems I am having here? Only 2 SAP systems. 2 databases means only 2 SAP systems. This is having 2 application server. This quality is having 3 application servers. That's it. So if you want to communicate between SAP to SAP, this SAP system to this SAP system, then gateway is responsible. And this SAP system to some non-SAP system is there. Some Java system is there. If you want to connect to that system, then gateway is responsible. So overall, we are having different types of work. The mechanism here will be having some services, some work processes, all together will perform the task. When you log in into the system, this application server is responsible for doing all the processing and bringing the data from connecting to the database and bringing the database to you. This is how your SAP's architecture will work. In next session, we will see. Here we are having some instance. I said instance number, ASCS, PAS, AAS, okay, and a host name. What is your SAP SID, DB SID, everything we'll discuss in next session.